Most of the impact that you'll make, you'll never see it. But it doesn't mean it's not real. Your voice has already shifted lives in ways that you may never know. I'm so glad to have you here with us today as we talk about the ripples that you may never see. If you're here live or on the replay, put in live or replay. Let me know you're here. I'm so grateful to have you here with us as we look solidly at the ripples that we make. Because again, most of those ripples you make, you'll never see. But it doesn't mean that you haven't had the impact. Hi, my name's Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, international best-selling author of 39 books and counting. I've had the amazingly wonderful privilege of helping 5,000 people, or right near that, write, publish, market their books to bestseller, and everything that comes beyond that. But more than that, what I'm here to do for you today is to talk to you about the clarity and the impact that you are making in this world. You absolutely are powerfully amazing, and you need to know, see, hear, understand, feel it deep within inside of you, just how incredibly powerful you are, how much of a difference you are making in this world. Live in that space, own it. Embrace it with all that you are, because every word that you speak is a ripple. It is making a ripple effect around the whole of the world. We talked yesterday. We went into this a little bit yesterday, but I want to go deeply into, all the stuff that you don't see. And like you said, I touched on it. I went into the technology, if you will, end of things yesterday, and I don't want to get, I'm going to try at least not to get all technical on you as much so today, but I want you to see the impact that you make. So think about it from this standpoint for a minute. Okay, something really simple. Because I'm not talking about necessarily you need to go. In fact, I'm not talking at all even about your going lives or any of those kind of things. I'm not talking about the, you being on a stage, you doing a Facebook Live, you doing a LinkedIn Live, you doing a LinkedIn event, you having massive people. Okay. Willie has an incredible, and I'm going to keep telling you about this, an incredible new single that's coming out. That's a massive worldwide launch and release that we're doing. And it's going to impact millions, literally. Okay. I mean, we're working on the project right now to be able to make that song, number one on Apple Music and on Amazon Music and on, a lot of different platforms. And we're doing the kind of things. But I want you to think today rather about the simple, basic impact that you are meant to make, that you're here to make. I can't decide if I want to lean back and talk to you today or if I want to sit up. I think I want to lean back. Okay. Whatever, tell me, sit forward, lean back, Steve, whatever. Okay. Because the big things are great. And I love being in front of stage and feeling, especially live at an event, and feeling the feedback from the people and seeing the look on people's faces, both when you're hitting and when you aren't. There's some good, more advanced speaking technique that comes from, being able to feel the crowd and know when what you're saying isn't resonating. It's one of the things we miss in lives. Even sometimes when we're getting, replies and stuff or comments, we kind of aren't seeing that because of, that really lacking, energetic feel that can come from people actually being in your space. And that's all cool and that's all great. But I really want to talk about all the little things that you do. So again, bringing myself back around to the example that I started before I hijacked myself to talk about what it's not. You're walking through line. Something simple, something basic that you do every day. I was just on a phone call with somebody who had to stop and get gas just before we did the call. Something really basic, I mean, if you're going to drive somewhere, we fill up the gas in the car, right? Just makes it easier. Even if you have an electric car, you got to plug it in, make sure it's whatever, okay? You need whatever fuel is fueling that vehicle. You need it, right? Just really not comfortable with how I'm sitting here, up or down or back or forwards, whatever. I'm just antsy, I guess. Let's bring this camera up just a little bit. All right, there we go. I'm trying to get my thirds going here today, folks. I'm just being all finicky and technical that I shouldn't worry about. I need to think about my ripple effect too. So you go to the gas station, you pump your own gas, and the person behind you or on the other side of the gas pump comes up and they pump their gas. Now, it's pretty normal for us to just kind of be busy about ourselves. Sometimes I think we intentionally hide in times like that. Oh, I'm just going to keep my head down. I'm just going to finish pumping my gas and get done. I don't want to interact with this person. Okay. Now, I'm not talking about that crazy person. We all know that person that once you get in a conversation with them, they're going to talk for about an hour about the same thing they talked about for about an hour last time they did. Okay, that's because they're in their passion and purpose. And they have nobody else to spew it on except for those that are crazy enough to walk into their trap. Make you wonder next time you go off on your thing whether or not it's just somebody who's crazy enough to walk into your trap. But what if you just looked at that person as they're pumping their, as they walk up to the gas pump to get the nozzle and go, how are you today? Or I hope you're having a really great day. Just that. Okay, it doesn't matter what they reply back. It doesn't matter if they do reply back. It wouldn't even matter if they groused at you. Yeah, whatever. It happens. Some of us have some grumpy people in our life. It happens. It's just one of those kind of things. Don't let the grumpy people be the ones that make you determine what kind of ripple effect that it had. Okay, there's two things happening in that most basic life of example. And I'm going to tell you what those two things are, but I'm going to give you one more example first. You go to the grocery store, okay? We go to the grocery store all the time. The drugstore, the convenience store, those kind of things. Places that you're going to go every week or every couple of weeks, definitely every month. And you get your stuff, you get your groceries, you take the cart up there, you put it on the little conveyor belt, and and there's the person. We were talking about the person at Walmart yesterday, right? Beep, beep, And you look at that person. And yeah, it can start as simple as, hey, how you doing today? Most of those cashiers are pretty good about going, hi, how are you today? And usually we have some kind of trite, totally unreal response that we make. I'm good. You're not really good. You were out in the car with your wife or your kids or whatever, and you were having a knockdown, drag out fight, but then you still had to go to the store because you absolutely have to buy diapers for the baby. Real life. But the person says, how are you doing? Bright, cheery, youthful smile. And you're like, I'm fine. What if we took that moment and we said, I'm good. How are you? Just that simple. Or what if, in that particular example that I'm using, what if after they were done, beep, 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 they were done with all of it, you looked at them and you said, thank you. I really appreciate that. I hope you have a great day. And what if the guy down at the end of the thing, I don't know why baggers are usually guys, but it always seems like they are, right? Not always, but, it does seem like that a lot. What if you said to that guy, hey, thanks? Or the guy that, often he then, takes out. We have this one grocery store here locally where they pretty much don't ask you if you want them to take it out to the car with you. They just kind of do it. It's kind of an interesting approach to it. Might be one of those small town kind of things that is still something that's an adjustment to me after having lived in. I mean, I lived in a small town for California, but it was like 20 or 30,000 people. Great big giant Safeway and a great big giant Albertsons or whatever it was. But what if you said, hey, I really appreciated you doing that? Okay, so in both of those situations, something really basic, something just basic human verbiage and kindness. Showing up in the world, in the life of the average, everyday people that you come across every day. I mean, even me, who I live in the middle of nowhere, I make a point as I'm out on my walks, because for the most part, other than the people that, my brother and my mom that live here in the house with me, I don't really see in person a lot of people very often. It's not a normal situation. And when I do see them, typically it's when I'm out on my walk. And although I'm getting much better at my walks, I pretty well have to continue walking, because if I stop, I may not make it home. I'm getting better at it, and I'm really grateful I was really being thankful this morning for how much progress I have made, but it still is a reality in my life. Okay? But what if in that situation, one of these two things, what if you knew, because it's not what if it does happen, it does happen. What if you knew and see and really understood the vision of what that just did? Okay, one couple of different people may be affected by it. Well, not even maybe, are affected by it. Number one, the person you said it to. There is never a time when you're bright and cheery and smiling and positive that it doesn't have an impact on a person. Now, there are certain times when people are really, really grousy and grumpy, where the impact may be in their mind negative, but it actually dropped a stone of good things into their life. It really actually does. I know a lot of times it's hard to see that with the grumpy, grousy response they get, but it actually did create a ripple in them. And you may never see, it may be a decade before that ripple resounds to the point where they're like, and they're not going to go back and go, and I can remember it all started from that one day when that person at the gas station, when that person at the grocery store said thank you to me. And I have been on this journey of being a totally different person ever since. Probably they're not even going to remember it, but it does make that kind of impact. It also makes another impact. And I'm talking about the direct impacts. We're going to get to the indirect ones here in a second. The people around you, around that person, the people that are maybe sitting in the car, those kind of things, they hear those words too. And they get to hear those positive words. I hope you have a really great day. Hi, how are you? Thank you. Things like that. So we gave you two examples. We gave you a couple of different ways that you can do that. And those create giant ripples that you're never going to see the impact of. That person's going to get in their car happy. I mean, it may make their day. They may be like, wow, yeah, you too. Can totally turn somebody's life around. I want to go back to the grocery store person for a second. Sometimes that's a really difficult situation. You don't know what that person might be going through. Now, and I'm not talking about getting preachy or proselytizing people or being one of those wacko manifester. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, most people that are in manifesting are really cool people. And I've met a ton of them, both ones that you've heard of and ones you'll never hear of. But every once in a while, you get that crazy one that really wants to spew their positive energy on you. I'm not talking about that. But maybe instead of yeah, I'm okay, maybe being like, and this is kind of an intentional choice that we make to choose happiness, to choose, even though you were having a knockdown, drag out fight with the wife or kids in the car, to choose to reboot, to reset. Can I tell you something? I actually started off today. I still can't decide whether I want to lean forward or lean backwards, so we're just going to go back and forth here the whole time, okay? I woke up this morning kind of sideways, not like in a bad mood, not like in a bad place, but also not in the sparky, happy-go-lucky, jumping, joyful Steve. You know, that one that you saw on Friday and Saturday, or even Saturday and Sunday. Maybe it was probably more like Saturday and Sunday. That, almost, does Steve have bipolar disorder? Was he going through a manic state? Like literally, okay? And I don't know exactly what it was, but I woke up and I wasn't grousing, but I was just kind of melancholy is the word they would call it in psychology. It's just kind of, but I intentionally got up, did my morning stuff, which really basically just involves mostly taking my supplements, morning bathroom stuff. You know how that goes, right? And then right immediately out on my walk. I try to make, right after I drink a bottle of water and take all of my morning supplements, to have that be the very first thing that I do. And our weather's going to turn here, and I got to commit myself to still being in that state. I need it, okay? Because I plateaued weight loss wise, and I want to bust through that. And although I don't want to get a whole bunch of pitches on, you should try this supplement, you should try this, I'd appreciate your encouragement in that realm, because I really do want to lose this last 60 to 80 pounds. That it might be as much as 100, just depending on, once I get this next 60 gone, to really, really evaluate how much more do I need to go. And I made that choice. And so I stepped out, and I was still in that, like I said, melancholy, not quite grumpy, but definitely not happy state. And I made that choice. I chose, as I was walking, I'm going to get out of this place. I want my walks to be miracles of visions. I want to see all of the things. Those of you that are, my followers on Facebook, because that's where I'm doing the mirror work exercises, or those of you who have joined us, visibilityamplifier.com. If you're a member of the Visibility Amplifier community, I share my daily mirror work with you. And I just made that choice to trust and believe the very statement that I'm saying, that's my affirmation, my mantra, my commitment. The words that my ears need to hear my mouth say, my eyes need to see my face saying. And that's all that has been promised is happening right now. And so I went out and I walked. And I walked across the street, around the corner, and then across the street to the property that I believe is already mine. We haven't signed any paperwork. We haven't even gotten, to get together with the realtor yet. Got to arrange some times. Willie J and I both want to go look at it together. But I just believe it in my heart. I'm not even going to entertain the, well, what if that doesn't happen conversation with you right now. I'm in that place where I'm living as though it's already happened, and I walk the property like a caretaker would. Yeah, the buildings are vacant right now. They're empty. I mean, there's a few, here and there trinkets and stuff that are still left in the different buildings, but for the most part, they're empty. They're just shells waiting for the hope and the peace and the promise that is coming to them. And when I got to the front door, because I was beginning to reboot, and I was praying, and I was talking, I was like speaking over myself, because let's start with that little ripple that you never give yourself credit for. And that's the ripple that you make in your own life when you do, like, for example, the daily mirror work that I'm encouraging you to do. You can do it as simply as, when after you brush your teeth in the morning, look in the mirror and say, that thing. I'd love it if you picked up your phone and you did a quick live or recorded yourself and then, posted that in. Because we'd love to support and encourage you in that. But your ears, your mouth, your brain, your eyes needs to see it. You need that ripple in you. And you're never really going to see the direct impact of that giant stone you dropped in you. If we were mindful enough, and we don't hold on to things quite that much, we could look at the good things that are happening right now in our life, and we could see that rock that we dropped 5 years, 10 years down previously have rippled into this thing that we're seeing now. Nothing doesn't build on nothing. Something doesn't build on nothing. That's what I was looking to say. Garbage in, garbage out. But when we start putting those things in place, and so I got to the front door and I was looking at the front door and there's a couple of pieces of paper that are still there from when the school, because anyway, there's still some pieces of paper so I sidestepped and there was an opening and you can actually still see some trophies that they're packing up or whatever they're doing with them. And I did my mirror I decided to do my mirror exercise this morning in the window. And it's kind of cool because I'm kind of almost like faded in there. And so you can see both the hope and the promise as I'm already seeing it as a reality, but also me saying all that's been promised is happening right now. The more you can see the vision of that, the more that you can place yourself in the place of it being real, the more real that it's going to be. So the great big giant ripples that you make that you never even notice in your own life, and the ripples that you make from just the simple kind word. What if in my scenario where I was talking about, you having the knockdown drag out fight, what if your choice to say to the cashier, thank you, I really appreciate you doing this for me. I hope you have a really great day. What if that shifted you? What if you then went out to the car and you looked at your spouse, you looked at your kids, and you said, you know what? I'm really grateful for you. They may still be in that same state, but you started the ripple effect. And in every single one of those instances, that cashier may have been in a really bad place. And those kind words may literally be life and breath. If any of you have ever had a child that was sick, some of you know, Maya went through a really horrible situation where she was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia and almost died. She's doing great. She's married, has a great, wonderful life. She's beyond the 5-year point. So they basically call her quote unquote cured. I think they actually call it full remission, but they said if she made it past the 5-year mark, that was, she doesn't have to go to the doctor on a every couple of month basis. But when your child goes through that, the people that are giving you hope come from so many different places. One of the big ones is the person whose child is a week, a month ahead of where your child is, and them just being able to share one good thing that happened for their child that day. The massive amounts of ripple effect that being able to share that. the ability to be able to celebrate those little things. They make giant waves and they plant seeds into the lives of the people you speak to, the people they speak to. You're growing a whole entire garden, a wild, a wild natural garden. You know the old tall tale of Johnny Appleseed, walking around all of the country throwing apple seeds out, and that's where all the apple trees that are around the different places in the U.S. come from. But imagine the concept for a minute, whatever that's based on. I think it's just a tall tale, but of the seeds falling into good soil, but in a wild, foresty kind of environment. And they grow, and the apples get, toted off by the squirrels and things like that. There's nothing cuter than seeing a little tiny California squirrel. California squirrels are like little scrawny little dudes running on its hind legs with an avocado that's practically as big as its whole body. That's how small they are, really, literally. Running, just delighted because it's got a whole avocado. As much as I missed, not getting to be able to get those avocados, every time I saw one of those little squirrels with the avocados, I was kind of excited that they got to it before we did. Still was a bummer that we didn't get to them, but. And that same joy is that spreading of that one seed that was planted there. And that tree was planted intentionally, but the seeds from that avocado go to places. And if we were in a completely untamed environment where it was just the animals running around, there would be, whether you're talking apples or avocados or whatever, there would be sprouting up, where the little squirrel ate it all up, and then the seed, and then it went and it grew another avocado tree. And the avocado tree who just simply did, I don't know whether avocados are, you would call them trees or bushes. They kind of look like they're somewhere between the two of them. But I think they're actually called trees. The avocado tree never knows the impact that it made. It just produced its fruit, went through its season, sprouted out the avocados, that grow on its branches, and nourished people and animals. And some of those seeds went far and wide. If there was the possibility to go into the future, and there's all kinds of things that happen, birds come down and pluck up the seeds, and blah, blah, blah. And there's lots of ways that it spreads, and lots of times when they don't take root. But there are also times when they do. And we need to see and understand just how much of a ripple effect every single thing we're doing. Now that brings us back to clarity. We need to be clear enough about who we are and what we're meant to do in this world, that we're spreading the right kind of seeds consistently, doing it on a regular basis. A tree, whether you're talking avocados, apples, whatever, every year it grows fruit. And if you don't pick the fruit, they drop to the ground, they rot. And if there was nothing and nobody, no plants, no animals, no nothing around, because weeds are going to choke up, all that kind of natural order of things. It would be a giant grove of apple trees eventually. And eventually fires and other calamities come through and they weed out some of those trees. It's just how nature works, and that's okay. But consistently, every year, same fruit, for as long as they're around. Are you clear on what your message is? And are you consistently producing the fruit that you're meant to produce? See, it's not your responsibility to determine who gets to eat your fruit, how it affects them. You know, the old saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. It's not the apple tree's responsibility that the person get the apple, remember to eat the apple, not let it rot in their refrigerator, and have it be part of a healthy diet. That's not the apple tree's responsibility. The apple tree just simply consistently does the one clear thing that it's meant to do, and that's produce the fruit called apples. And that's what we're meant to do. And the rippling effect all over the world. Think of the plants, the animals, all the things that exist in your neighborhood, in your county, in your state, that are not indigenous to that. They came in from somewhere else. You know, everybody loves palm trees in California and in Florida, but they didn't start there. They got brought there. And now they're a natural part of an expectation of that particular environment. Your words are going to do the same. That's why you've got to consistently, clearly put them out. That's why I'm always harping on you about you need a book. Because your book, it may get bought by this person over here, and they read it or don't. And then they throw it in, say, the free giveaway bin at a garage sale. And some little kid is like, ooh, that's such a pretty cover. Can I get it? And mom's like, yeah, sure, whatever. You know, it's Think and Grow Rich or something, you know, and they're like 5. All power to those 5-year-olds that are reading Think and Grow Rich. I'm proud of you. You know, and it sits around that house. And maybe a teenager in that house picks it up. Maybe they're even like, you know, I'm going to take this to college with me. This is one of the books that I think I'll look intelligent if I put it on my shelf. And they go away, and they, in this particular case, they go to college on the other side of the country. And they have a roommate. And the roommate has a girlfriend. And she's looking at that, you know, at the shelf one day, and it's like, oh, Think and Grow Rich. I've been wanting to read that book. Could I borrow it? And you're like, yeah, you know, I mean, you can have it. And she reads it. And it changes a little bit in her mindset. And she passes it on. And then 5 years go by. And she's talking about something and doesn't even remember that she had learned it in Think and Grow Rich. But she's sharing the wisdom that was in that book. And she shares it to a person. And that's an epiphany moment for that person. And they change just a little bit. Another 5 years goes by. No, in this case, 10. And that person is raising a child. And they instill that same belief into that child. And that child grows up with that positive Think and Grow Rich mental attitude. And they create a brand new tech company that creates a revolutionary thing that is the cure for cancer. Something huge and amazing. And they're being interviewed by some kind of journalist on television, let's just say. And when they're asked, what inspired you? As the ways that sometimes we do, maybe they remembered their parents, maybe they didn't. But in that moment, they use one of those phrases that their parents said so much that actually comes from Think and Grow Rich, that that person doesn't even know came from Think and Grow Rich because it was said to them by somebody else. Do you see the ripple? Somebody watching that TV show grabs a hold of that, and they live as a little bit better of a person because of it, and on and on and on. Now, I used a very well-known book because I wanted to use something that you could envision. But what if that was your book? You've got one in you. And the ripple effects. You see, statistically speaking, I know Amazon will tell you that only 40 copies of your book will ever, the average book only sells 40 copies in its lifetime. And that's often seen as a down thing. But what I'd like to say is take that same ripple that I was talking about with all of those hundreds and millions of people that were impacted by that one little book, that the person who originally bought it didn't even read it. And maybe your book, maybe it's your mom that bought it, and maybe it sits on her shelf or in a box in her house her whole entire life. And maybe it's not even until she passes that somebody finds that book and they're like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe it's your children. It's not even you. It's her grandkids, right? That are going through grandma's stuff. And they're like, did you write this book? Yeah, I had forgotten I did, but yes, I did. Can I have it? Sure. And they take the book. And maybe they read part of it and they don't, maybe they just keep it as a collector's item. But maybe their child, your grandkids, maybe it becomes their favorite book. And that one thing that you thought or didn't even think about is now impacting your grandchild. And your grandchild begins to talk about the elements and the things you teach inside of that. And they're impacting lives. And on and on and on. Think of dropping a giant boulder that is your clear message into the world and the ripple effects that it'll make. And think about how massive that is. If that's not just one person that gets a copy of your book, but it's 40. Whole totally different perspective, isn't it? The ripper you'll never see is often the one that matters the most. It's not your responsibility to even try to determine. It's your responsibility to make that ripple, to drop that stone in, to say the things, have your clear message, say it consistently. See the difference between having one book and hoping generically someday somebody off of Amazon accidentally buys it and it makes that ripple. That's one thing. But to consistently speak the words out of that, sorry about spam risk, to consistently speak the words of that out every day, to do your mirror work and to say the thing, that positive thing that you're going to say every morning, to go live every day and let people know, hey, Steve's going to come on and he's going to talk for more than a half an hour, probably more than 40 minutes. But there's every once in a while some good stuff in there. And it ripples because when you add consistency to clarity, you're then making a system for dropping boulders in to the pond that are constantly making more and more and more ripples. Why? So that you can connect We need to stop controlling the outcome and we need to just make the ripples, because it's the ripples you'll never see that are often the ones that matter the most. I'm so grateful we got time to spend together today. I appreciate you so much. Tomorrow we're going to be together again and we're going to talk about when your voice becomes someone's anchor. Your voice becomes someone's anchor. I'm looking forward to bringing that to you tomorrow. We'll be back again tomorrow. And until we're together again, I hope you have a great week.